All right, welcome, Mia.
Thank you so much.
You are very much amazing.
Oh,
It's so good to see you in person, honestly.
thank
I
you.
have anticipated this moment for quite a while, a while, and I'm so excited. There's so much is flowing right now because I really wanted to make this memorable. That's what I want to always make the experiences very memorable
Mm.
so that you leave off with a sense of euphoria, when you think of the conversation and how that allowed you to express your passion and what you're all about. But
Wonderful.
yes,
Thank you for having me.
you're very much welcome. So, just a short intro to obviously let you know who this beautiful lady is. She isn't just an editor-in-chief of Dossier, she's also a culture editor in the truest sense, someone who knows how to shape narrative, define tempo, and elevate meaning through meticulous curation. My gosh, if I could show you the size of this magazine, you would be so thrilled. And her work is measured and considered. It doesn't really rely on noise, it relies on nuance. And that's what makes it so powerful. In an environment where speed is often mistaken for progress, this conversation is a reset. So do get the sense of a return of clarity, depth, and the quiet intelligence it takes to create work that really lasts. Welcome
Wow.
to the first visual experience of M Sessions with your boy, Golf. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that intro. That was beautiful.
Thank you very much. All right, so to sort of take it back and keep it very light, I want to get the sense of you, You did say before we did start that you are usually behind.
Not usually, always.
Always, right.
I
Always.
started off as a photographer.
Mhm.
I always had in my mind that I will do a magazine since I was 12, 13. I always knew that it would take a form of a magazine, but I started with photography, as that was for me the first step to being able to publish one day. And I loved it. I've been a photographer now for 40 years. So for me to be on the other side is much more, I feel much more myself, but I'm very happy to talk about what I've achieved with Dossier, what
Yes.
my team has achieved, because it has not been easy. It's not an easy landscape to work in, but the rewards are just so thrilling.
I want to go into that as well because you do mention a lot, especially in the spaces that you share creatively. I'd say because I do follow you on LinkedIn, and that's that's where you engage a lot with your experiences and every single thing that you come along that really just keeps you working, but also shows you that hey, this is a real moment, and you reflect on. But before we do get there, because I know that's a beautiful part of it. Let's go into your upbringing and your influence as well, because your dad, Louis,
Yes.
a very phenomenal man from
Yes.
what I could get.
Yes, he was.
Um,
Both my parents.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the influence they had with coming to South Africa and just the merge of cultures and what did that do for you?
My dad was in advertising. Him and my mom had a very good mid-size ad agency. And he was a phenomenal person. My mom was more the quiet, stable one. My dad was very outrageous, creative.
Yes.
And he did things like invent the knickknacks man.
Wow.
So Simba came to him and said, "We have this funny chip. Can you think something up? Can you create a character? Can you create a name?" And he came up with a whole lot of different things like that. So he was quite well known in the industry.
In the industry, yes.
And in those days, I'm talking now 1980, when he was making those ads, he also had a very different idea of what South Africans are and who they are, and that it's not just the SABC, what they were telling everybody.
Around that time, yeah.
Yeah, that what kind of ads they had to produce. There were strict guidelines. And my dad was one of the first people that put different races into one commercial. And it was, in those days, they had to fight for that.
I can imagine because of the constraints that they
Yeah.
were experiencing with the
No,
governmental
you
laws.
weren't allowed by the SABC to put different races, especially kids, together in a scene. You had to cut to different races at different times.
And
So
to
he fought against all of that. So
wow.
he was a pioneer in that way. So I grew up with that kind of no, fight for doing things differently. And I think coming into my career, I had experienced so much with my parents. I lived through them because I was very, very close to both of them. So I grew up with TV shoots and radio commercials. So I kind of like knew the industry so well by the time that I matriculated that it was fluid for me.
And all of that just allowed you to creatively explore what would then develop into Dossier.
Yes, but it took a while. It wasn't. I had to first do my own journey through photography, where I worked for all the big clients. I worked to layout, to what ad agencies wanted. I worked with all the magazines, and in those days, magazines were a thing, and it was a big part of photographers' client base. We saw in COVID a whole lot of magazines closing down.
True, that is very true.
But in my heyday and in the heyday of photography, those magazines were powerful. Yeah.
I can imagine actually how COVID has just changed the landscape and how consumers consume media.
Yeah.
All of that has translated to us being less attracted to reading more and engaging more with like actual pieces of content.
Yeah.
Right now, you just look up a video and two
TikTok.
seconds in,
Yeah, TikTok
you're
scroll.
literally gone.
But I don't know if we want to go into the scrolling and all of that psychology. I think there are a lot of people that are coming back to a hard copy and to reading because of the tactileness of a hard copy, and also people want a pause from the noise because there's a lot of noise.
A lot. A lot.
And I think also, I work with a lot of brands. Obviously, magazines have to work with a lot of sponsors.
Correct.
And I think they're also realizing that people are going to flick so quickly through things that it's good to just get the reader just to stop their eye for a second on something and to have a look at a page and just rest your eye and not have that manic competition for your attention.
For your attention, true. We do relay it back to the connoisseurs, people who really just pay attention to detail and really want to, if they are into something, experience it holistically. And wow, I'm captured by the magazine. It's so amazing, and just how you're able to capture media within that essence and landscape is very beautiful. But yes, understanding and also putting into perspective that around that time, when your dad was doing the marketing agency, the constraints and the consumption of media as well was very much, if I can say, tuned. So you could only get it through the SABC,
That's right.
which had a lot of constraints around that time. And how important was it for him to set the tone, obviously, of his understanding of what life should be in South Africa especially, and how did he get through to make sure that he's able to show that and still have the watchdogs, so to speak?
Yeah, it actually was very interesting. He ended up in Parliament. I was in matric, and he called me one morning and said, "Listen, I don't know if I'm going to be arrested or not. He'll know at 2:00 in the afternoon." And he went to speak to them. He went to speak to the people in charge, and he said, "Things must change."
And I can imagine what that would do for you as you were in matric, right?
Yeah.
So an 18-year-old.
You don't know if your father's going to be in prison or not. Look, it was different times. It was dark. It was dark times. It was not nice for anybody, and but it was the kind of a heyday in advertising. The ad agency still had a lot of power then. It's not as watered down as what it now is. You know, everything was, you know, that your Sunday Times ads were, I mean, people spent a fortune and lots of time on creating, you know, pieces of billboards, ads. It wasn't watered down. You had the top minds working on copy and layout. So it was a heyday of advertising that he worked in it. And I think I also saw the heyday of magazines when I started.
Because they were fairly introduced. I believe the concept was still new in the consumption around the time. And you were able to experience that.
Yeah.
And let's delve into your traveling, right?
My favorite topic.
Because you have such a great background, I believe. You did travel to New York. You did live in New York at some point in your life.
Yes.
You went to
Parsons.
Paris as well?
Yes.
Right. What other place have you?
Well, New York was really interesting because it was in 1987. So New York was very different in those days. It was quite dangerous still.
Okay.
It was the parks closed down at 6 o'clock at night. You'd hear gunshots at night.
I was run by the mafia gang.
It was quite it was really interesting times. They cleaned it up now, but there was a lot of freedom in New York at the time. I mean, there were a lot of artists that were coming up. Just in a small example, Madonna and her early...
Madonna.
Yeah, and Basquiat and all those people were running around in the streets. So there was a lot of freedom and creativity in those days. And Paris was a bit more laid back for me in the sense that I was an au pair. I was very young. I just came out of matric, so I just looked after a baby. So I was able to, on the weekends, go around. But it was quite domesticated, and it was good for me. But I had a lot of time to walk the streets of Paris by myself, which was wonderful. And then I got married, and my ex-husband ended up at Mercedes-Benz in Stuttgart. And that's
in Germany.
Germany, and right. I didn't enjoy that. I didn't enjoy the German winters or the way of life.
I can imagine.
And coming from Paris and New York, and even, you know, Joburg is cosmopolitan.
Yes.
And then ending up in a small rural village just outside Stuttgart was not great. And unfortunately, my husband then, the ex-husband, had to end up working for Volkswagen, which was in PE, Port Elizabeth.
Yes.
Which was coming from all those cities to come to that little,
yeah.
Yes.
And that's where the biggest manufacturing hub
was. Yes. So, yeah, coming from big cities to a small town on the coast.
Not a very nice experience.
Life has got ups and downs and hills and valleys, and
that is very true. And I love how you're able to capture that essence so purely and authentically in your journey, you know. It's definitely the one reflective piece where you were talking about how you got to launch Dossier Men.
Yes.
And that for me it was amazing, you know. And the amount of resonance that I could feel and get from that, from just reading that, you know, I could tell that you are a person that is able to capture a moment and tell the story just as it is, and also be very reflective on it as well, which allows someone to resonate no matter what perspective they come from. And I'd like to talk about that as well. When you came into the launching of the Dossier Man.
I just want to rewind a little bit and just add that, The thing is that a magazine is a collective coming together of talents.
Right.
It's not, I don't work in a vacuum. I've got photographers, we've got stylists, we've got makeup artists, and everybody needs to come together and work for that day, for that shoot as a team.
As a team, correct.
So and also, the thing is that what I like to do is to give people the space and the freedom to express themselves and how they want to do things without constraints of creativity. So that's why Dossier was birthed in the first place. Because at the time, 20 years ago, the magazines were very contained to shooting on a white background, and it was very uncreative, and it wasn't a very free space back when I started. And that's why I started Dossier. I knew that the people that I worked with, the stylists, the makeup artists, the hairstylists, all the creative people, the fashion designers, had more to offer. And that's why I wanted to do the Dossier, which is a style file, a fashion file, an art file, a travel file, is to give everybody that has the talent a space to show what they can do. So I don't work in kind of by myself. I sit, and I like the way that you spoke about being a curator. Because that is, I think, what an editor does.
Yes.
Is you find the different things and you bring it together like threads, and at the end there's a product.
It's one beautiful product.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
There's something to show, and 20 years from now that book will still have something to show of this year, what happened in the creative field.
That's amazing. That's amazing, just how you're able to capture that. And yes, I think we did extensively touch on identity and direction. So the reason why I'm very much drawn to that piece is because you also mentioned the early stages of creating Dossier, the kind of experience you had with people who wanted to fund the business.
No, you go through a lot of hardships with the good. It is a challenging thing to do anything, if you think about it.
True.
Just doing, if you're a fashion designer, you've got hardships, you've got things challenges. There's always the financial aspect, which is difficult for South Africans. It's difficult for creatives.
True.
Is to get people to believe in you and to give you funds to have creative freedom. And I think that is the big challenge with Dossier, and it keeps on being a challenge 20 years in, is getting the brands to buy in to what we're doing. Because somebody's got to fund it, right?
Of course,
it's not,
of course.
I'd love to self-fund, but that doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. So
yes.
I think it's a challenge for all South Africans, and it's probably a challenge internationally, is to get your big brands to buy in and do something a little bit different.
And I do wonder at times what the conversations are like, especially when you try to shape the landscape, because I do believe that every single exchange that you would have with a brand executive or a brand manager would be one that sort of relays exactly why there should be a Dossier in the market and why that would be beneficial, not only for them, but also for the readers as well. And that's a very interesting side of things.
It is. I always thought that I would be a creative, and I've ended up being a salesperson. So you have to have an angle. But it's so funny, when I started 20 years ago and I did the first issue, my client said to me, okay, let's see if you can do a second issue and then we'll buy in. And 20 years later, people are still saying, maybe the next issue is still this. They're still giving me
the same
story. Maybe next time. I have to push quite hard to get every issue done. It's not a easy sell still, because it is niche.
Yes, that is
And
correct.
also, you must remember 20 years ago that my audience was just born, the audience
That
that
is
I have
true,
now.
that you have now. Yes,
So
that is
now I
very
have
true.
to rethink things. It can't be stagnant. You've got to now reach out to a new generation while keeping
The old one that is still
the readers that I've
intact,
had for
yes.
20 years, but you've got to now engage with a whole new generation. So that is also a challenge. But I love that challenge.
Yeah. It's amazing how you're able to, dabble in. And also, I'd say the background and experience definitely does fall through, especially when you do get into a time change. Because a lot of companies or a lot of people, a lot of creatives are not able to match up, especially when there's a lot of changes in, first of all, consumption and how people engage and interact with things. Like you said, COVID really did change the landscape.
It did. I was actually very disappointed in a lot of the publishing houses that closed over COVID. I thought that was a cop-out. I think that they should have stuck through. It's at the same time that COVID hit, I was on a site for a lot of French magazines, and they were still publishing right through. And to this day, if you go onto a French magazine rack, there's lots of titles. So I don't know why we in this country gave up so quickly on publishing and magazines. To me, it's sad, because I think that, especially with the young kids, and especially women's issues, I think that you could address it very well with a publication. So it's sad to me that people gave up so quickly.
And when you touch on that, actually, I had to revert on some of the notes I had to give you a minute to talk about the responsibility of influence and the nuance of leadership as well. Because what you just touched on is expressive in exactly that, The magazines would have been, because I'm thinking now back when I was very young, reading through a magazine and seeing this thing that captures me visually, and I can engage with it and interact with it. It definitely did inspire or cultivate some sort of idea that I have, and something I've grown to right now. Understanding that has changed today, because there is internet, there's social media. A kid could literally touch a lot and experience a lot within a minute or so. But what do you think it is that could have been missed and should be reinstated in the responsibility around influence and the nuance of leadership as well?
Oh, that is interesting. I think with responsibility, it's quite interesting for me that a lot of schools, a lot of institutions are trying to get the teenagers to get off their phones. So responsibility is now so far and wide. In the end, I think it's up to parents now to take responsibility, because there's so many things thrown out. But what I like about the magazine format is that it is a place for a person to dream. If you see what other people are doing, it's a dream igniter. And even if I put it on Instagram, or we put our magazine on a digital platform, or we go onto TikTok, what I'd like to do is for young people to say, there is something else out there. I can maybe become an artist. I can become a fashion designer. There's so many creative outlets. So if we can just ignite the dream still with what we do, then I will be very proud of myself.
Right. Okay, let me just go to the next set. I believe this section should be cut off a bit. Just want to get exactly what. wow, you're saying you're not as good, but you're amazing.
Oh, thank you. It's because you're interesting to talk to.
Well, thank you very much. But you're actually doing most of the work. We should be swapping seats. All right.
I usually ask a lot of questions.
Yeah. So you enjoyed one person probing into it. So now going into culture and influence. What is the next phase for us to look forward to, not only within reference of Dossier, but now absorbing the creative landscape and where, because you did mention that Joburg is a cosmopolitan and we have so many creatives around the space, and just seeing that landscape, and I believe you do interact with a lot of creatives in your line of profession.
Yeah.
Where does the future take us?
Oh, I think we are at such a, as we spoke, things are creatively quite hectic at the moment. There's so many things coming out and avenues that a creative can take. I'm just scared that because of TikTok and Insta, that people aren't going to refine their craft. What I see is that there's a lot of diluted content coming out, and that is worrying to me. I think that there's people don't take time to work on a specific piece that they throw out onto the internet. And I think that if I could have a bit of a say in that, I would be that creatives must really hone in on their talents and work harder at their pieces of content. It's hard work to bring an image to life that means something and will stand the test of time, that can still be beautiful in 20 years' time. It doesn't just happen. You've got to plan and really craft it. And I'm worried that people aren't crafting images. Even if you bring out a TikTok segment, the creators that work on what they're doing, they will get the attention. I don't think the speed at what you throw out content is going to help you. It's more doing something really unique. And I think with AI, that's also going to come into play, is your creative thinking about what you bring out is still going to be the essence. It's not going to just be the speed at what you can do things, but actually thinking about it and then presenting an image to the world.
Yeah.
That's not something that anybody could have done. You thought about it, you brought your personality and your background and your vision into an image. That is what's going to stand the test of time.
Wow. And touching into AI, you brought up a very interesting point, because I believe that for a lot of people that vaguely engage with the learning system, they sort of believe that it's an autoplay for everything. You can just put something in and then it'll automatically develop itself to. But usually how I engage with it, it's like it can be trained. It's like a baby. Right?
Yeah.
You feed it the knowledge that you want it to get, and it just results that, yeah.
When the first digital camera came out, I remember going to my clients, and I had a really good system. It was a very expensive system, and my clients would say to me, "You shoot film. We are not going to ask you to shoot on digital. It's never going to happen. It's never going to take. We're never going to take digital images for our campaigns."
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, just give it some time. It's still the same. It's just faster. Let's just give it some time." And I think I've seen things over my career where it was pivotal points in technology where people got scared and said, "Oh, well, now it's going to dilute, it's going to do," but it's still a process. It's still, maybe it's easier, maybe it could be faster, but you still, you can't prompt something into being that you haven't thought about, because then all the images look the same and nobody's going to notice anything anymore. So it's still your creative, your heart and emotion.
Yes.
I think emotion is going to play a big part in the future. If people don't resonate with it, you're going to lose people. And that's where emotions, and especially with creatives, they've got a lot of emotions. It's hard dealing with them because of their emotions. Everybody's got feelings, but that must come through in the images that you create. And that you can't do with AI.
And that actually brought me to the power of creativity, actually, now that you do speak of it. So in retrospect, it's the emotion that is poured into that.
I think so.
And the resonance of that.
I think so. I think that people are going to pass over images that don't speak to them, and maybe it's always been like that. I think if you look at all the artists, like somebody like Van Gogh, I think when people heard his story and knew what he was about, that's when people started looking at his art differently. They knew that he was shot, they knew that he died, and that intrigue, but they also knew that the emotional state that he was in when he painted a painting. And that kind of emotion we'll see through the years.
And it does shape the perspective as well with how they engage with the art.
Yeah, it's all about heart. If you can't touch people, people will move on.
And well, art is in heart. So.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, in this show, featured by a very amazing guest, the African Wine Bar, brought to you by African Diamonds, created a boutique selection of Cronier wines. And today we're going to be tasting the coffee Pinot Noir. So the winemaking experience of it is that the grapes are harvested early morning to ensure robust fruit flavors were retained. After crushing, the grapes underwent a 2-day cold soaking period. The juice fermented cold and slowly and was taken from the skins at about 3 degrees boiling before putting it into selected French oak barrels, and that delivers rich coffee and chocolate characters on the palate. So we will go into the tasting of this coffee Pinot Noir. So there should be hints of coffee and cocoa. And as mentioned, gladly presented to you by African Diamond Wines and the African Bar. All right, so glad to have you again after tasting this beautifully crafted wine. Didn't get a taste of the chocolate, but I'm pretty sure that the notes would actually complement each other well. So as someone that shapes the cultural tone, what are you observing right now that excites you or concerns you?
Talent has always excited me, no matter what form it comes in. The concern is always just people diluting their talents, like I mentioned before. But I'm not concerned about the newer generation. I'm not concerned as much as other people are about creatives. I'm concerned about politicians.
Oh, wow. That's a totally different conversation.
That's not my conversation. That's not what I do.
No, we could actually touch on it, because I believe that the political landscape does shape as well how we think, whether we're looking at it from a perspective of creatives or from a consumption perspective.
Yeah, I think if you look at our leadership in our country, to me it's been very disappointing to see what they've done in the fashion landscape, the lack of support. I thought 20 years ago that our fashion landscape in South Africa would be very different. And unfortunately, with fast fashion, it's been disappointing to see that these beautifully talented people aren't as far as they should have been,
Mm.
and that it's very difficult now to enter into fashion and
Into
to have
fashion.
a brand.
True.
And that's sad for me, because 20 years ago I really thought that we'd be further along.
Mm.
So to me that is concerning that a young kid with incredible talent has not got that support behind them to do something amazing.
And I love that you touched on the young kid not having support, because I believe that's exactly what this platform is about. It's about giving that young kid at home the support, at least from getting expert advice, from people who have trialed and tested the concepts and see how they know how to engage in the creative world. It offers them a lot of insight, I believe. And hopefully at some point we can grow the platform to become big enough to also offer the support, the financial support, creative
Yeah.
support.
There is support though. What is really interesting about Instagram is that a kid can access their creative hero and engage with them within one message. And that is something that I find really interesting, is that I can speak to my favorite fashion photographer in Spain and just send a message and say, "You've inspired me, thank you." And they'll come back with, "I appreciate you." And there are kids that come and
Yeah.
ask questions and
Yeah.
say, you've really inspired me to think bigger. And there is a conversation that can be had, which
That's
when I
wonderful.
started, I did not have
Didn't I?
access to. So in that way, it's easier to get a bit of creative input. But people must know that they can do that.
Yeah.
And it is healthy to do that. You can't, I think maybe the one thing that I'm concerned with is that kids these days think they know it all. Whereas, there's a wealth of experience that you can tap into and just ask. And we are all, as creatives, very open to sharing what we've been through. And there's no reason why somebody can't say, "Oh, I love this avenue of photography. What is your suggestions?" I think most photographers, most creatives will be very open to starting a dialogue with somebody that has questions and real interest.
Right? Yes, I do really get a sense of that, because I believe that's been the same response as well I've been getting, with the few people I've engaged with, from the art space as well.
Absolutely.
So many different spaces, but you guys will get to experience that, because we're gonna be having so many experiencing personalities. It's honestly exciting. I can't wait. But yeah, I just love how, as human beings, we're centered, because of communication, we're intellect beings that are able to communicate. We're centered to being able to find resonance and build community. And I believe that aspect has shaped us since we existed,
Exactly.
And it's very important for the right dialogues to be initiated, and for people to be shaped in a way that really inspires the next generation, so we don't have watered down experiences and content. And so I really do appreciate it. I'd like to take the time to acknowledge your work. It's amazing, and the story behind it as well, just as amazing. Really love how you capture the essence of being a creative, starting from just a passion, and now that is a business.
Yes. And I'm quite an introverted person. I had to overcome a lot of my own sense of low self-esteem, whatever. The thing is just to have a dream and just chip away at that dream in spite of things that happen, in spite of your own insecurities, in spite of the up and down of business, in spite of all the up and downs and the hills and the valleys that we've been speaking about in business. Just keep a big dream in your head, and once you focus on a big dream, you can achieve it. but know what you want to achieve and know what your dream is. I think maybe that is a problem, is that people don't have a fixed idea of what it is that they want to do. But once you have a fixed idea, achieving it is the easy part. Know
But
what you want to do.
the idea must be fixed. So the vision behind it must be.
Yeah, you must have a dream, have a vision.
Yeah.
Then it's almost like your mind will work towards achieving it. So if you know exactly what it is, what you want to do, that's the big part. That's the difficult part. Once you've got that, the world will conspire to make it happen.
I love that. I love that. And as our Minute Mentor today, what can you leave for that kid who wants to engage more with a community that understands their vision and is able to shape their creativeness to bloom into this beautiful vision they have in their mind? What word of advice do you have for them?
You know, the one thing that the internet and this vastness of it has brought to us is endless resources. As a photographer, I had to learn from a manual. When I got into digital photography, I had to work from manuals. Now, you've got the wealth of information at your fingertips. So use it. But hone in on the thing that you want to do. There's so much information on how to do it. And there's also such brilliant examples of people that are doing it well. And that's always the thing, is find somebody that is doing something how you want to do it, and then see how they did it and watch them. That's a good way of getting to where you want to be. Have heroes. Even if it's a podcasting hero or whoever it is, know what you want to aspire to. Then it's easier for you to get there.
All right. That sounds amazing. Well, thank you very much, Mia. If there's any other notes that you would like to share with Dossier and what the future looks like. Dossier Men, oh my God. I engage with it digitally. I'm in love.
Oh, thank you.
Love the visual experience. And also, I never thought that Dossier actually is a file, as you mentioned.
It is
I
a
thought
file.
it'd be filing like a slim magazine that puts you through a recent story of what's happening and a couple of adverts as well.
I try to bring travel, cars, fashion all into the same dossier. That's always been the thinking behind it. That's why I shoot my fashion content in a hotel or in a lodge, to bring different elements together, not just show the decor, you show the travel aspect, but to bring people into situ. It makes it more, it resonates, makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
So not just have a model holding a fragrance, but bring it into an experience of you are in a hotel. This is an incredible hotel. Show the interior, show the food, show almost like a dream of what one would want to wear in a hotel like that. Although it's all dream.
Yes.
It's make believe, but it's the dreams that keep us alive.
It sells the idea.
Dreams keep us alive.
That is true.
We have to have something that we aspire to. Aspirational. That's why everybody talks about a magazine being aspirational. It's because it keeps dreams alive, and that is what keeps humans alive, is hope.
Couldn't have said it better. Couldn't have said it better. All right, so regrettably so, we have reached the end of the episode. But thank you very much for giving us so much clarity and language for things we often feel. I believe that's what you cater for. And these things are things that we feel but often don't know how to articulate. And I believe with the file that you have created, you just know how to capture the essence of that. So thank you very much for that.
It's been very painless. Lovely. Thank you so much for your openness and how enthusiastic you are about the creative process. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And it's conversations like these that aren't just about information, but they're also about calibration. So they just remind us that real leadership isn't always loud, and legacy isn't built in rushes, it's formed. So through taste, through intention, and courage to be exact with your voice, even when the world prefers noise. Whether you're an emerging creative, still finding your rhythm, or a seasoned visionary, or finding your next chapter in the space for you, we're not here to go viral, we're here to go inward. So, to document what it actually takes to shape culture, to lead precision, and stay human while doing it, because that's a very important aspect as well. And this is just the first of many, I can gladly say. And if you found yourself somewhere in this conversation, please stay close. We're building something timeless. So thank you very much for joining us in this episode with the amazing Mia, Chief and Editor of Dossier. And do like, subscribe, and share the content. Thank you very much.